Help us level the playing field. Sign the parliamentary petition today to fuel the growth and fund the game.
Ladies, to round 25 of the Senol NPL Victoria. It's the penultimate round here. Altona Magic take on Avondale for the home side. The pressure is pretty much off. Avondale are already mathematically safe from relegation, and Avondale still plenty to play for. They come into today with a chance to finish second, but drop as low as fifth in the NPL Victoria table. It was a very different story last time these two sides met. Back in round 12 at Avenger Park, 5-1 win for Avondale. Max Green, Christian Tryszewski, Seita Murai and Bruno Fornaroli, who scored twice, are all on the score sheet on that day. Avondale need to bounce back from last week as well. A 3-2 defeat to Caroline Springs George Cross. And Magic have only beaten this side once in their 10 meetings. My name's Ross Papadakis. I'm joined today by Peter Paleologos. Peter, what are you thinking about today's game?
Welcome, Ross. Welcome, everyone, to today's telecast. Thanks for joining us. I think it's a fascinating game. As you mentioned earlier, Altona Magic, not much to play for. They're mathematically pretty much, although 6 points ahead of Billy Greens, they're mathematically way ahead in terms of relegation, so pretty safe there. Avondale, a lot to play for. Currently third, could drop to fifth. But also it's momentum going into the finals. And they really want to pick up because it's going to be a very competitive final series and they don't want to be in sixth place. So much on the line today, and it should be a fascinating game. I think both teams will have free license to attack today, so I'm anticipating quite an attacking match.
Of course, we'll go through the lineups as well for Avondale. It's number 1, Jack Gibson. Number 2, Murphy Bennett. Number 3, JP Niua. Number 6, Marcus Frakranis. Number 8, Saad Mukashar. Number 10 and captain is Bruno Fornaroli. Number 11, Max Green. Number 13, Yite Towns. Number 14, Blake Carpenter. Number 21, Adama Traore. And number 23, Christian Tryszewski. And for Altona Magic, they've got Ilya Shalamov-Trenkov in between the sticks for them, followed by Hiyori Karaguchi, Lachlan Gillard, Garangaru, John Sujewski, John Mabok, Eamon Sordo, Owen McCloskey, Gavin Tasevsky, Alexander Gust, and Daniel Fabricio. So Adama playing on that left-hand side as well for Avondale, and Blake Carpenter on the left wing side. Of course, traditionally a fullback. He's scored quite a few goals this season from that position, so you can probably see the thinking why Johnny Germano has put Blake Carpenter out on that wing as Tryszewski gets it away to because McCloskey goes to Sordo, over to Garangaru now. Now McCloskey does try to get around Dama Traore and does keep the ball in as Tryszewski chases down Gust. Just slot the ball through, cleared by Frakranis. Around Max Green. Over to Bennett. On the line. Sujewski. And then long by Ilya Shalamov-Trenkov. And a free kick given to Altona Magic.
Yeah, you mentioned Carpenter playing more of a left wing. That quite happens a lot with right backs, left backs who become wing backs down the track. But one thing interesting about Carpenter, he's probably the third most shots outside the box in the league, so he has got that attacking mindset, and obviously he's been in quite a bit of form lately, so I see him someone that maybe provides another option besides Bruno Fornaroli.
Of course, 4 goals to his name this season, Blake Carpenter. What's missing from today's squad for Avondale as well is Emlyn Wellsmore and Pat Flotman. Substitutes when they're probably relevant a bit later in the game, as Saad Mukashar, the former Magic man, gives it on to his former teammate in Alexander Gust. And now, just too far for Eamon Sordo. And now Bennett.
With Altona Magic, they had a tough game on the road last week. Time for regroup and a time for some of these players really to show what they can do for next season. So a good opportunity. And as I said earlier, they've got the freedom to play today against a very, very good Avondale team.
Of course, the Adama Traore now, who tries to find Blake Carpenter, but it's off to Christian Tryszewski. Down the line to Blake Carpenter is feeded away by Garangaru. and out for a throw. And a free kick, rather. The referee calls. Of course. Been very good in midfield, this Avondale side as well. Of course, the likes of Christian Trasevski, 8 goals to his name this season. Play Carpenter, of course. Bruno Fonaroli, 19 goals to his name. Of course, George Ott's on the bench as well with 9 to his name. So lots of goals galore for Avondale.
They are. They're a goal-scoring team, very attacking team. Defensively, they've had a few issues this year, and that's where maybe they're probably not in the top 2. But really, the firepower and the ability from midfield to attack is one of the rare, maybe Preston, maybe South Melbourne and Oakley, but really, really good attacking talent going forward.
Of course, defensively as well for Avondale. Matt Reid, of course, absent from today as well. Did, unfortunately, tear his, or rupture his ACL a couple of weeks ago. Our thoughts go out to Matt during his rehabilitation. Of course, it's for Kranis and Jacob Muir and the backline today. Of course, absent was also Pat Flotman. So, a big loss for Avondale, but regardless, they should be okay today to get something out of this game, as the ball is sent over to Eamon Sordo and then to Tasevski, and it just runs all the way through.
Yeah, Tasevski was disappointed there. Probably had an opportunity to control that ball and have a shot. Interesting statistic today. None of the Avondale players have played all games all this season, where Altona Magic, 3 of their players have played every single of the 24 games. And they have that good structure. Kawaguchi, Gus has been so important for him, and attacking-wise, Mabok. So, 3 players there that have been part of the spine of Altona Magic all season.
Of course, Bruno Fonaroli did receive a straight red card a bit earlier in this season, so missed a couple games there as well. Still does have 19 goals to his name this season. Can't quite catch the goal-scoring record in the NPL Victoria. It was Milos Lujic, I think, with 26 goals, so he technically can still catch it, but he's got to get about 8 goals in 2 games for him. As he chases the ball off Kawaguchi to Sordo, over to Gust, and then back to Shalamov Trenkov. And along to Sordo now as well, who will find Bennett over the top, and then Yate Town to Bruno Fonaroli now. Is Trasevski, who will look up to find some space and does try go himself, and looking for space out wide for Adama Traore for victory man. Mukashar, it's Carpenter. Off the side, Daniel Fabrizio, and it will be another throw. Adama Traore, this one.
I'm just looking at the formation for Altona Magic. Seems to have 3 at the back, but now moving to 4. Kawaguchi has tucked back in, but they're just... Goose is, instead of playing it, normally he plays in defence, playing more as a 6, and also tracking back a lot on Trajewski.
It's Traore now. We'll feed it back to Muir. Side for Kranis, but goes long to Carpenter. Behind, and Shalamov Trenkov has to get down, of course, on loan from South Melbourne is Ilya Shalamov Trenkov, formerly of CSSK Sofia as well. So spent some time in the youth systems as well with the young Socceroos, the Joeys. Sajewski to Shalamov Trenkov. Over to Gilliard. Over to Mabok. Gillard. Over the top, down it is by Saad Mukashar. An offside flag has been raised.
Just also looking at the Avondale setup, pretty much 4-3-3. A little bit of license for Trachevsky to move forward as well, but pretty much playing with the 2 wingers, Fonaroli in the middle, as a striker, and 4 at the back with a bit of movement in the midfield, maybe with 2-3-1, one playing as a 10.
Towns though. Goes back to Carpenter. Back over to Muir. You can tell as well, they're just not playing with as much intensity as they're used to either, as John Mabok goes some space on that left-hand side. Sordo through the middle. Again to Mabok, and can't quite reach his feet by Alexander Gost, and will be a goal kick this time again.
Alexander Gus been one of the, I would say, seminal players this year. I know, obviously, Altona Magic not in finals contention, but really from defence, playing six, his attacking forays, really provides a lot of options, and somebody who's really impressed these last few years, especially this year in the NPL.
Of course, spent some time around the Football Victorian Pyramid as Trajeski's feeds Carpenter. That's a great slide in by Garangaroo. And it will be a goal kick as well. Looked like a great tackle as well by Garangaroo, but goal kick. To Towns. Bennett. To Towns again. Can find his wing own Max Green on that right-hand side, formerly of Canberra, Croatia.
Good tracking back there by Aru. I mean, he did come off Carpenter right at the end there, but got a lot of speed to get back there and put that pressure on Carpenter, who has been very dangerous in creating opportunities this year for Avondale, and that's why he's playing on the left as more of a winger.
It's for Kranis now, who will find Gibson. Muir. Patiently playing the ball out of the back line to Marcus Kranis. Back over to Chysevsky. Down by Sordo. Across to Chysevsky. And around by Gust. Sordo. Another one of their new signings as well this season, coming over from North Sunshine it was. Is now, as his ball comes in and cleared only as far as Daniel Fabrizio. He can have a chance here to go over the top of the first and the second. He does chest it down, and strike goes to Jack Gibson's arms.
Good to see Sword. I haven't seen much of him this year, and very willing to take on one-on-one, willing to duel and get into the box, and quite a creative player. That's someone who can bring that extra dimension to Altona Magic.
Yeah, of course, spent some time in the US college system as well before moving over to North Sunshine Eagles. Of course, they also play today as well for a chance to remain in the VPL 1. And, of course, the Australia Cup quarterfinal against Lions FC on Tuesday. For now, though, it will be a throw-in for Avondale. And a long throw, you can assume. Will be sent all the way in. And across by Fakranis. Down by Shalom Oltrenkov, and picked up very nicely. Gillard over the top of Mabok, off to Muir. Down by Tasevsky. He does have options forward. He does go himself though. Has to turn around Muir. Across to Fabrizio, who's offside. And it will be a free kick for Avondale.
Yeah, Gavin Tateski, I think a year or so ago, was one of the young guns coming through the NPL. Good to see him get some game time and really try to make that attacking midfield role his own, and showing. I know they've also got Hatzopoulos, who's on the bench today, who's also one of the young guns to look out for this season. But they've got some really good young players coming through Altona Magic.
Of course, also on the bench for them, of course, number 1, Casey Wendt, Chang Hee Lee, Jesse Langer, Oliver Kellart, and Henry Monching. For Avondale, they've got George Ott, Adam Zimmerino, Ayuk Mao, Pat Wall, and Seta Milwright, formerly of Norton City Excelsior. There's Aru. Try to find Mabok, but headed down by Fakranis. Off by Karaguchi. Mabok. Over the top for Bruno. Back the other way, and a free kick. I think that was a handball for Altona Magic, and Fornaroli will find the head of Garangaroo and out for a throw for Blake Carpenter.
Yeah, I was looking at some statistics earlier this week on Avondale, and Fornaroli, we know he's the leading goal scorer, but he's actually second in assists with Trejevski this year in terms of the NPL, so very also providing the service, not just the finish.
Of course, signing for the Australian Championship, Bruno Fornaroli. Like many players in this side. Also Damature, mid-season recruit for them. Side Mokashara as well.
Well, Ross, that's the other thing. We say that some of these teams now have survived relegation, no longer in, and they're going to play finals. We know Avondale's going to play finals, but some of these players could easily be, the way the system works with the Australian Championship, easily come across on a loan or another transfer if the contract's finished, a free transfer, or even a loan. So some of these players are playing maybe also for Australian Championship. We can't underestimate that, especially from Altona Magic.
Yes, Bruno tries to find himself in behind to Gillard. Garangaroo. Deflected off Trashevsky. Off by Traore. Mukashar. Down to Gust. Over to Eamon Sordo and off the head of Murphy Bennett. Yeah, of course we saw late last year as well, it was Bilal Habib, formerly of Altona Magic, did make the move over to South Melbourne for that championship before making his way over to, of course, Green Gully. So someone like him, you'd assume, would be looked at by probably one of the Victorian teams, even interstate as well. Of course, Somalian international. There's Tajevsky. Shalemov Trenkov. Finds John Mabok, but goes over the top of him and finds McCloskey, former Port Melbourne Shark. Goes to Mukashar. Muir. Over to Stajevsky. It's Gillard. Shalemov Trenkova under pressure by Bruno Fornaroli. He does go to his centre back in Gilliard, and Garangaroo keeps the ball in.
If Fornaroli putting pressure, that's probably the third time on the keeper, making sure he disposed of the ball right. He's actually putting a lot of pressure, not just on the keeper, but also has put a bit of pressure on Gillard and some of the other centre backs. So really putting a bit of a work rate, showing that pressing, very important. And I think Avondale's probably got the wind a little bit, Ross. It's sort of flowing this way.
Yeah, I feel that a little bit as well. We'll see, I guess. Avondale do know they probably need a win. They do have a better goal difference on South Melbourne, of course. Game against Heidelberg tomorrow, but yeah, win today would pretty much give them good stead for a third place finish.
Interestingly, this pitch is probably probably with Preston, one of the larger pitches in NPL. Would you say, Ross?
Yep.
Whereas Avondale play their game on probably one of the more tighter pitches, more I would say condensed pitch from looking outside in. So it's quite interesting now. Players a little bit away from each other. There's a little bit more distance between the players, where Avondale like to play also those in the channels and those through balls.
Do you think Avondale's playing a little bit maybe patience as well? They know that they can probably win this game by probably playing at half speed, maybe even at 70%, maybe not want to push it and rest themselves for that first week of finals, but Magic will of course have the opportunity to counter that and score a couple goals. They do sit quite high as well on that halfway line, Avondale. Of course, no Emlyn Wellsmore either for Avondale, so Murphy Bennett does jump into right back in place of him, former Manchester City Academy player, Murphy Bennett.
Yeah, you mentioned Wellsmore. He's probably second in one-on-one dribbles in the whole NPL. Someone who loves to take on players, the game-breaking type players, to open up the channels or the areas, but he's missing today.
It's a chance for Murphy Bennett to showcase himself on the big stage as throw-in comes in for Avondale. It'll be picked up nicely by Shalamov Trenkov. Very tall presence in between the sticks as well for Magic. Of course, current South Melbourne player as well on loan. Goes back to Bennett now, who finds Fornaroli, tries a back heel, and then goes across to Stojewski. And here's Garangaroo. He does have McCloskey ahead of him. He can find him as well. But Carpenter feeds the ball to Traore, to Towns, who slips over to Tasevsky. Sordo. He can strike from range. He does. Over the bar. And I think you've got to give him credit for taking the shot there as well. No one's really had anything to do with either goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, other than a few corners there for Avondale, which Shalamanov Trenkov has really dealt with. It's interesting because the other goalkeeper that's been obviously a mainstay with Altona Magic this year, Went. He's a number one through passer or long passer. He loves to kick the long ball. Now with Shalamanov Trenkov, it's a different type of game. He probably try to get it more shorter to his players to come out. So a bit of a change of tactic for Altona Magic, but it's interesting because I would say that against the wind they're holding up, but they're not setting up maybe a mid-block, but they're not setting up with a low block, even though they are against the wind Altona Magic.
Of course, well, there is another game on as well. We'll keep you updated about the scores over there at Casey Fields. Bentley Greens do lead Melbourne City 1-0. Of course, our game as well, so it's not quite just enough just yet for Bentley Greens to stay in this competition for next season. Of course, they do need to overturn a 14-goal deficit, but of course a draw here for Altona Magic would mean that they are safe. So they do know that they can probably just play a little bit safe, I guess you could say. The ball goes to Trashevsky. Murphy Bennett's taken down, and it looks like a free kick given.
Yeah, they can play for the draw, but I think that the setup is more attacking. They've got quite a few attacking players. They see this as an opportunity to attack, and they've got players who can score goals. We saw last night, I don't know if you were there, Ross, Northcote and Brunswick Juventus both fighting for that NPL next year. It's going to be quite exciting with Melbourne Knights up already and some late goals. Anything can happen in a lot of these games, but you need the attacking opportunities and you need those attacking players who can take those opportunities.
And one of them here is on the free kick in Blake Carpenter with lots of numbers forward for Avondale. And Carpenter sends the free kick in. Headed away by Kawaguchi is Sojewski. Finds it all the way down the line to his fullback. It does go down to Sordo. He's offside. And it was a very good counter-attack, but just maybe slightly off the pace.
Yeah, that was Gusta there offside, and Fabrizio and Sordo all going forward. Really good transition there, just a little bit offside, but the linesman was just right there. So it just shows what with Gust, with Sordo, with Tasevsky, the ability of and with Mabok, of course, and Fabrizio, the ability of Altona Magic to quickly transition.
Avondale now going back the other way. There's Green. Slots it all the way through, and Garangaroo will just try find this passage through, but Carpenter manages to feed it across to Fornaroli from range. And it's in! Bruno Fornaroli with number 20 for the NPL Victoria campaign.
Wow, that Fornaroli takes the shot. That's his 20th. Shalamala Trankova will be very disappointed with that. Should have done better. I know it bounced a little bit before it got to him, and you can tell from his body language, very disappointed with that. But Fornaroli, you've got to try things. They've got the wind. It's going to swirl. But Shalamanov Trankova should have done a little bit better there, and you can see it in his body language, Ross. Very disappointed. Just let it in on the inner right post.
We know that Avondale do love to score goals as well, so once there's one, there could be 2, 3 and 4, so we're very curious to see. It's just Altona Magic need to ensure their heads don't drop here, and it could be another opportunity for Shalamanov Trankova, but he does send the ball all the way down to Owen McCloskey. Over to Aru. Fabrizio. Back over to Gillard. Stojewski. Kawaguchi. Again, just passing the ball, waiting for the opening for Magic as they turn and find Aru. Stojewski will once again restart play with Gillard. Putting pressure on them is Bruno Fornaroli, and he does find Gust. Over to Fabrizio, back over to Gillard again, and then back to his goalkeeper, to Stojewski. Kawaguchi, captain today, does find Sordo, and he just dispossessed once again by Murphy Bennett. It's playing a bit of an inverted role there with Ute Towns. Does send the ball over the top of John Mabok, over to Fakranis, and back to Gibson, who hasn't had much to do today.
No, it hasn't. I noticed McCloskey's playing against Truro. McCloskey, someone played for Port Melbourne last year. Had a young player who's got a lot of upside, but it's a tough ask, especially against the win against Truro. Someone's very, very experienced. He's trying to get you. He asked for the ball earlier, but didn't get it, and you can tell he needs to get the ball and get a run. They need to run a little bit more at Avondale in order to be able to get behind. But I suppose with the wind, Ross, you can tell the wind's getting a little bit stronger, and that's obviously Avondale in this first half have got the wind behind them.
Another long ball by Kawaguchi to find Tasevsky. Sordo again, trying to get past Murphy Bennett, and it will be Kawaguchi's throw. Over to Gust, who looked like he was pushed, but Stojewski will again feed the ball back down the line. This time it's Saad Mukashar. Down by Gillard, and here is Jacob Muir to Trasevsky. Here's Trasevsky over to Fakranis. I'll spend some time at Brisbane Roar as well for Fakranis, as well as the LA Galaxy youth system. Represented the youth team for the US men's national team, as well as Australia as well, so a dual national, as Kawaguchi just about finds the ball, and a high boot that will be, and a free kick for Avondale, and that looked probably like an accident, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say that was a little bit accidental, but it was high, and it's hit a player. Kawaguchi being one of the players of the year for Altona Magic, so who's been in teams of the week, and just maybe the wind mistimed that. It's interesting you mentioned about the American sort of influence. We've seen the Japanese influence slowly coming to the NPL Victoria, some Japanese players and some Korean, but mainly Japanese, but also with players going through college or lower American divisions, USL. We've seen them a lot coming back into the NPL, so it's quite an interesting trend, Ross.
Yeah, of course, Jacob Muir as well spent some time in the US college system, as well as many others in this Avondale team today. And once again, Blake Carpenter will take this free kick. And it'll be very high. Tries to find the head of someone. It does find John Mabok, and back to Adama Traore. Over to Carpenter. Head on by Sojevski. Hands for Ilya Shalamov-Trenkov to punch away. Here's Shad Mukashar, former Magic man. Across to Trajsevski. Here's Towns sitting deep. Over to Gibson, to Traore again. Over 200 games in the A-League, Adama Traore. He's got a young Owen McCloskey in front of him to battle against today. That's Trajsevski. Goes to Towns. Over 350 games as well for Avondale. Appearance record holder for them as Newer. Goes to Sordo. Back over to Sojevski. He's under pressure once again. Back now to Kawaguchi. Of course, you mentioned the likes of Japanese players as well. The Yuki Uchida, for example, as well, is having a pretty great season for himself at South Melbourne. Many others as well around the league. There is a Seita Murai on the bench for Avondale as well as Keiju Kojima, who isn't in the squad today. I think he played 23 to the Avondale earlier, but lots of Japanese influence, of course. Of course, Bill Fleming medal winner Yuki Uchida. Some time at Dandy Thunder as well as Northcote City, and some time in Malta, and of course now South Melbourne. As Trajevski does send the ball all the way over to Green. Back the other way for Eamon Sordo. Gets around his first man inside Mukashar. Does have very good numbers in the box. John Mabok there, as well as McCloskey. Cut back. Look for space himself. Does try find Fabrizio. Can get around Max Green. But Mukashar now. We'll find Trajewski. Aru. He's taken down his man in Carpenter, and he will have a chance to drive. It is cleared by Ute Towns. Over to Gust. And back now, and Bruno can put Ilya Shalamov-Trenkov under pressure here. He does get around Gillard and over to Trajsevski from range. And Ilya won't make a mistake that time and cleans the ball up nicely.
Yeah, there's a mistake there by Alex Gus. We don't see many of those, but just got Fonaroli, gave the ball back, and Fonaroli in space and able to get the ball to Trajewski. Just Sordo had an opportunity earlier. Fabrizio was by himself for probably 2-3 seconds, needed an earlier ball, and that was just a little bit of a missed opportunity there for Altona Magic. Sordo getting himself in really good positions, but just needs a faster ball to some of his teammates.
Of course. If you're just tuning in now, it's a 1-0 to Avondale. Bruno Fonaroli with his 20th season. Of course, it was Blake Carpenter who did pass him the ball in the first place. Another assist to his name, as Trajewski was the one that really started that attack for them as well. And it will be a free kick now for Magic. And Trajewski now on the floor. Looks like having some issues with his leg of some sort. A medic will be called on for Avondale.
very important player, Trojecki, for Avondale, especially with his finals campaign and also going to the championship. Probably the maestro, someone who, and we've discussed this, a lot of us commentators in the NPL, Ross, about the difference between A-League and NPL players, especially New South Wales and Victoria NPL teams and players. And Trojecki's one that could have, he was a bit unlucky with Central Coast. I think it was COVID was the pandemic then. He had trials lined up. But he's one player that easily is at that level in the A-League and someone who could easily have had a career, as other players within the NPL. The difference ain't much. That's what basically I'm saying. And we've seen that this year and last year. That argument that we've had in Victoria about that, is being backed up.
Of course, we did see Preston Lions beat Newcastle Jets, of course, in the Cup, as well as South Melbourne beating Adelaide. So the gap is definitely dropping between the NPL systems and the A-League, of course. Because RPA did lose to Melbourne Victory and SD Raiders losing to Sydney FC, but really setting up a showpiece for whichever team does make the final against one of those two sides. It all kicks off Tuesday and Wednesday, of course. North Sunshine taking on Lions FC and South taking on Preston.
Yeah, big games those, and especially South and Preston, winner of that could go all the way to the final.
We'll be over the top two. Kawaguchi, who's very high now up the field.
It's been a bit of a pattern of the game. Players have got the license to go forward, whether they're defensive or not. Seeing the same with Muir, he's not scared for Avondale, a centre back, to step into the midfield, become a 6, or even surge up forward.
Nick Kawaguchi now with this throw. It's headed on by Towns. A bicycle kick by John Mabok is into the arms of Gibson. Or something similar to that of last season. Altona Magic on the final day did stay up against Port Melbourne Sharks. It was a bicycle kick by Bilal Habib that day that almost went in, and much similar to that of that nature of John Mabok, but it was that game that secured Altona Magic's place in the NPL for this season, of course, and it might be this game that secures their place in this season as well. Photo as well taken by Sibirski Photography that day that won the Les Chalk Award for Best Football Imagery, as Towns tries to find Green, and he does turn. He's taken down, but turn to Fabrizio, over to Sordo. And a free kick once again for Altona Magic.
Yeah, John Mabok at 7 goals this year, top scorer there for Altona Magic. Also, second in the league in terms of getting the shot on target. 60% of his shots are on target, and we saw a little bit of ambition there, a bit of the overhead, but someone who does get the ball, and that's something that if you don't get the ball on target on goal, you're not obviously going to score, and that's where you create your opportunity. So Mabok's someone who always able to get that shot, test the keeper, or get it on target.
Of course, spent some time at Melbourne Knights in Werribee as well. Second season at Altona Magic. As Gillard sends a diagonal ball through, but Jacob Muir intercepts to Trajewski. Fornaroli. Over the top of Gillard. Back down to Gust, and Mabok now will taken down once again by Shard Mukashar, and taken quickly by Fabrizio. Over to Sevsky, back out to Sordo. Through again to Kawaguchi with the cross, and Shard Mukashar taken down in the box for Avondale, and a free kick given.
Good movement there on the left channel there, good create. faster tempo, faster ball, got behind Avondale. Obviously, the foul crowd's disappointed. The Altona Magic crowd's a little bit disappointed. Mabok penalised there, came from behind. But that faster ball, the faster tempo caused a little bit of problems for Avondale there.
Just about 5 minutes to go in this first half as well. And Bentley Greens also leading 2-0 to Melbourne City at half-time. So still very much on the cards. I mean, much more goals needed in that game as Mabok tries to get around Jacob Muir. And he clears it out for a throw.
Well done, Muir there. Showed his strength. Mabok tried to take him on with the speed, pushed him away, and then able to deal with the second chance there. So really well done there, Muir. Really showing some pedigree in the centre of defence.
It will be Garangaroo. Down the line to McCloskey. Across to Fabrizio. Almost sneaks it into the near post. And it looks like it will be a goal kick.
Good opportunity there. McCloskey finally got some space, got around, dangerous winger. Got a good ball. Fabrizio just didn't get his lines right. Should have probably tested Gibson, but quite close.
Still not had much to do today, Gibson, in between the sticks, but still just 1-0 to the Avengers. And it's just 34 goals conceded this season as well. Of course, Preston just the 18 as Bruno feeds it through. Looked like it went in, but Max Green sends it again far of the near post.
Yeah, Max Green, good shot there, just wide. Fornaroli showing his creativity with that assist. Well, it wasn't a goal, but just assisting there and just showing what it can do. It's moving the ball around, and good opportunity for Avondale.
It's very interesting, of course. Bruno playing with his back to goal, really, and he's just trying to find his wingers and share the load around. Maybe he's happy with his goal count today and finding his friends some goals as well, as McCloskey will find Fabrizio is taken down, and that's a bit of a late challenge.
Mentioning Bruno Fornaroli was in the team of the week from last week, the NPL men's team of the week. So he's had couple of big weeks, has a big season as well, but hitting form, momentum, creativity at the right time of the season.
Of course, ineligible for that gold medal due to the suspension earlier in the season, but you'd think he'd be in the conversation without that. But you look at other names as well in this Avondale side, maybe the likes of Christian Tchaichevsky, Blake Carpenter even, maybe other teams as well, Joe Guest, Sebastian Pasquale even. You'd all be in the conversation, maybe Garangaroo even for Altona Magic's been a pretty good player for them this season. So lots of big talent. I think it's probably been one of the most open races for the gold medal in recent years, as I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even mentioned Preston, you mentioned Oakley,
exactly,
Joe Guest, and some of the South Melbourne players, although a lot of them had commitments to the OFC, so they probably didn't have the full season at NPL. But yeah, there's a lot of players who've stood out. It's been a very exciting NPL, and a lot of players have come to the fore, and going forward in finals, we're going to see some fantastic matchups.
Here's Towns, though. He tries to slot it through to Fornaroli. And on by Green. Down by Gillard. And off to Kawaguchi again. And also probably in the conversation for that award as well. Finds Mabok. Over to Fabrizio. Here's McCloskey. Does have a Dama Traore ahead of him. Cuts backwards to Fabrizio. Over to McCloskey again, back to Fabrizio, and here's Carpenter now. Does find the feet of his opposition. Over to Gust. Here's Mabok. And now Towns. Free kick.
Yet again, Muir, really good marking, one-on-one marking on Mabok, who had his back turned to the goal, but really good, and just was able to intercept that and push Altona Magic back again.
Aru. It's now North Sunshine have just about hit half-time as well against Brunswick City. Of course, they need a win to stay in the VPL 1 as well. The Australia Cup under 60 quarterfinalists, rather, as Trajevski tries the volley, and that's an easy save for Ilya.
Yeah, Strachevski's took the opportunity. Maybe could have passed the Fondaroli. It was that outlet was there too, and you can tell both of them thought about that. But that's the danger of having that pairing, Strachevski and Fondaroli, both class players and very dangerous.
Here's Kawaguchi again, turning around for Kranis with the back heel over to Max Green, and out for Kawaguchi to take this throw. Finds Tasevski. Goes back to Lachlan Gillard. Over to Shalomova Trenkova. Again, under pressure is Stojevski. Over the top to Mabok. He's pushed off the ball once again, but Jacob Muir won't get away with that one. No advantage played. I don't think a card's given either, but John Mabok looks in trouble.
Yeah, that's a solid tackle there by Muir, who's really done a very good job on Mabok, keeping his opportunities limited. Especially for Kranis, you mentioned for Kranis before. You can tell he's got a little bit of leadership qualities there. Him and Muir, a new pairing, I would say, of centre-backs. And he's reading the play, he's telling where his defence has got to go to move up. And, he's showing some very interesting approach in terms of leadership.
Here's John Stojevski now. He will send the free kick in, and Gibson makes one of his few saves he has had made today. 2 minutes will be added on as well in this first half, as indicated by that fourth official. So still plenty of time in this half for Magic to get something out of it. They've had a few chances. As Kawaguchi goes back to Gust. Here he is again. To Mabok. Through to Tasevski. And then Murphy. Bennett's taken down and free kick. Very physical this first half so far.
It is. I mean, also the ball's a little bit, I would say the grass here is not the smoothest, so the ball bumps around a little bit. And so that obviously, in terms of getting those really quick passes, does affect that. But it's been a very interesting first half. I mean, Altona Magic probably have the win the second half. They're showing some good attacking qualities, and they're in this.
And Hume City has just kicked off against Caroline Springs, so we'll keep you updated about the score for that game as it happens. So far, it's a 24th minute goal by Bruno Fornaroli that separates the two here. As Stojevski goes along. Of course, a draw at Hume would mean it would be 3 points going into the final day between second and third, rather. Hume City taking on Avondale on the final day, so it's all to play for in that game next week. As Stojevski sends the ball out for another throw, and this one of the last chances at Paisley Park in this first half. And it's lots of numbers in for Avondale as well. Throw in comes in. Headed on by Fakranis. Down to Mukashar. Cleared again by McCloskey, and that's half time here at Paisley Park. It's just the one goal by Bruno Fornaroli that separates these two sides going into the half.
Yeah, very interesting first half. Both teams, I would say they've got free license. Both teams ready to attack. Avondale have had the wind a little bit. Fornaroli with a good goal, although I would say Shalomanov Trenkov will be disappointed with letting that through, because it did beat him on the right near post. But the game's still evenly poised. Altona Magic with the win in the second half have shown that they've got the attacking mindset, have created opportunities. Sordo's been very dangerous. I'd like to see McCloskey a little bit more involved. Mabok he's getting the ball a little bit far away from the goals. He would like to be a bit closer, maybe this second half. But Muir, who's really has been very solid in defence, and Avondale with Traszewski, Fornaroli really creating, and Karmata also on the left wing. So I think we're finally poised. Should be a fascinating second half, Ross.
I've been Ross Papadakis, joined by Peter Paleologos, and we'll be back in 15 minutes for some more Senol NPL men's action in round 25. We'll see you very shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round 25 here at Paisley Park. It's still 1-0 to Avondale. It was an early goal by Bruno Fornaroli. He's 20th of the year. But he's so far giving Avondale all 3 points. I'm Ross Papadakis, joined today, of course, again by Peter Paliologos. And Peter, was a very up and back first half, very physical first half for both sides. Of course, Avondale did look the better side as well, as they already come out firing pretty early. Altona Magic, Kawaguchi goes to Max Green, on to Stojevski, down by Towns. Sordo. And down the line to Kawaguchi, off the back of Fakranis and offside.
Yeah, it's Altona Magic, second half. You can tell they've just started really trying to get creative, and Sordo early on the ball, and Gus, two very important players for them. But they're in this match. I think they've got, with the wind behind them, it's swirling a little bit. But I think it's going to favour them this half, and that's going to assist, especially if they get a bit of a faster tempo. And really, there is a lot of open spaces on this pitch, and get through the channels.
Of course, as the halftime restarts, Hume City and Caroline Springs are drawing 1-1, and Spenley Greens are leading Melbourne City 4-0 in that game. So there is still a very minimal chance that Bentley Greens could stay up and Altona Magic could go down. 7 goals are needed by Bentley Greens, of course. Another 7 goals overturned. But Hume City as well, of course, a 1-1 draw. They lead Avondale by 3 points going into a game next week against each other, as Towns crossed the ball all the way across, and that time Ilya does well to get down off Bruno Fornaroli's shot.
Yeah, Fornaroli giving it a little bit of space there, and just, I would say, scuffed his shot. It was a bit harder to control as the ball came down, and Shalamanov Trenkov, the right place, right time, just make sure that didn't go through. But early start, taking start by both teams.
It's back out for another throw this time. Nabok. And there's no changes either for either side, as North Sunshine are now leading Brunswick City 2-0. So almost safe for them, as Carpenter does have some quick feet. Try to get around Gillard, but does go out for a throw. Traore back to Carpenter. Crossed in by Carpenter into the arms of Shalamov Trenkov. And long now. Here is a chance by Sordo. Headed away by Jack Gibson, and out for an Altona Magic throw. Gust to Sordo. To Gust, over to Sordo again, who has space to drive, and it's knocked off by Gibson. Not out of danger just yet, but Towns tries to go back the other way, and Daniel Fabrizio sends it out.
Yeah, Gibson's come out there, hasn't had much to do. It's interesting because this year Gibson's had third most shots.
And a strike from range by McCloskey. Goes back to Alexander Gust, and it will be a free kick. Magic this time. Looks like a drop ball potentially. Sorry to cut you off, Peter.
No, it's all Altona were on the surge there, so yeah. I was saying with Gibson, he's had the third most shots faced this year. Although today Altona haven't really tested him, so that's something that maybe the difference in defence for Avondale, but during the season, Gibson's faced a lot of shots from different teams, third most this season.
course, just two big saves really made for Gibson today, as Sordo will line up for the corner. Put it away by Carpenter, down to Gust. Can get around, but Yite Towns is in front of his man. To Stojevski. Across to Aru off Traore. And those horns, if you can hear, it's the young fans of Avondale. Every single game they're at, apparently. So it's great to hear some support, but also not so great sometimes for the sound quality. But
they remind you of something, Ross, Vuvuzelas? We didn't hear any of those at the recent World Cup in the US, Canada, and of course Mexico. Not much Vuvuzelas there, but we are hearing him today.
And here's Towns, though, who will feed Max Green out on the right. And he can drive. It's a great sliding tackle in by John Stojevski, and halts the attack by Avondale. Murphy Bennett will just hand his ball over to Max Green as well for a throw. And it's 5-0 Bentley Greens. It's Green. Goes long. And Kawaguchi down to Fabrizio. Cross now to Green. Feed it down the line to Kawaguchi. Mabok now. Does take a bit of a heavy touch off Carpenter's back foot. Goes to Trajevski. Over the top to Fornaroli. Slide along the floor is Carpenter. And again dealt with by Ilya.
Yeah, Rue was on the wrong side of Fornaroli there. Gillard on the other side was able to create that opportunity, and Avondale now getting back into with the corner here, getting back into attack, and they look quite dangerous these last few minutes.
They have, of course, as Christian Trajevski will send a cross all the way in, picked up by Ilya Shalamanov-Trenkov, and he goes long once again. He's got Eamon Sordo by himself with Yite Towns, and it's pushed out for a goal kick. And I don't think it was a corner. There are lots of calls from the coaching staff for a corner, but it looks from our angle like it was definitely a goal kick, which was the call given, of course. But
yes, the Altona bench looking for a corner there. They thought that Sordo did enough, and it came off Yite Towns, but the referee was quite close there and made the call.
of course, that 5-0 result at Bentley so far means that it would be an 8-goal turnaround needed, as McCloskey just runs it all the way through. Of course, looking to the bench for Altona Magic as well. They've got Chang Hee Lee, Jesse Langer, Peter Hatsopoulos, Oliver Kellart, and Henry Monching. Avondale, of course, they're not without goals on the bench either. George Ott, Adam Zimmerino, Ayak Mao, and Pat Wall, as well as Satan Murai is also there.
Yeah, Ott's 9 goals this year.
Yep.
So second top scorer for Avondale. So they've still got a lot of firepower on the bench there. But there's a different type of player to Fornaroli, more of a target man, and they want to change the shape of the game. That might be one of the choices they can make for substitutions.
As Fornaroli sends the ball over the top to Carpenter, Ilya Shalamanov-Trenkov does manage to get his hands to it, and he will go quickly to John Stojevski. And a long ball sent through to Gibson, who will try push this ball out of play once again. Another goal kick.
Yeah, Fabrizio and Sordo all asking for the ball a little bit quicker to come out of defence. They're able to get. They're actually on this left side channel for Altona Magic. creating some space and they want the ball quicker. So that's something that maybe with the tempo, Altona Magic's really got to quicken up the tempo here, because in order to get behind, it is an open game, but there are spaces, and Sordo and Fabrizio have indicated to the defence, get it out to us quicker.
Looks like Adama Traore is on the ground as well. Looks like he's potentially got some issues with a leg injury. Of course, Blake Carpenter is on the pitch at left wing, so could potentially drop him to left back. The medics signalling for a change to be had for Avondale, so looking to their bench is Zimarino, of course, Ott, Ayuk Mao, Pat Wall, Seta Murai. So really any of those could come on in a winger role. It looks like it's going to be Ayuk Mao to come on the wing. Adama Traore. Blake Carpenter dropping into left back. He's had quite a good stint there at left wing last couple of games. Ayuk Mao as well, 1 goal to his name this season as well. And there's confirmation of that change. Adama Traore for Ayuk Mao. And it looks like he'll play in that left wing role as predicted.
Yeah, natural change there. Carpenter going to his, I would say his original position when he was a little bit of a younger player on the wing back role.
John Mabok, though, will be his first test. And he does get past him. And across, he's sent into Sordo, cleared by Fakranis. Back to Sevsky. Down by Towns. Off to Fornaroli. He's back to goal once again. Finds Trajsevski. And here's Ayuk Mao, who will have his first point of action. It will be a ball against Sojevski. Fornaroli to Towns. Towns through to Murphy Bennett, and out this time for a corner, or maybe a throw-in.
Well defended there by Gillard, right place, right time. Just had to make that interception, otherwise Avondale were really through.
And it will be a corner. So Christian Trajsevski to take it. There's 20 minutes to go in that Bentley Greens Melbourne City game. It's still 5-0. And, of course, North Sunshine lead 2-0 as well against Brunswick City. So, still very much could be safe. But play Carpenter to take this corner kick. And it sends very high and long off the head of Fakranis. From range, it was Bennett over the back of Fornaroli. With his back to goal, he's taken down. No call given. Max Green, back to Fakranis. Crossed by Fakranis. Strike by Carpenter. And over into the train yard.
Overhit there by Carpenter, but Fornaroli causing a lot of problems. 5 defenders around him, circulating him, making sure he didn't get that second chance, second ball is coming in. So really, the very Fornaroli focused the Altona Magic defenders.
It's going to be Ilya Shalamanov Trenkova to take the keeper kick, and he does. Off to Sad Mukashar is Daniel Fabrizio, who loads it on to Eamon Sordo, and John Mabok will just miskick that once again and send it out to Ayuk Mao. Does find Bruno again. Pushed out for a throw-in.
Yeah, Mabok probably went for a shot, mistimed that, but Gavin Tasevsky was available. Probably the layoff to him would have been the better option.
Here he is again, Mabok, as he finds Gust again, but Trajsevski will just lose the ball to Mabok. He does keep the ball at his feet. Feeds it over to Fabrizio, and a free kick given for Magic, and this could very much be the equaliser. He's on the floor as well. I think he's okay.
It's a little bit out, I would say, but the wind's behind Altona Magic, so it could be an opportunity for a shot, for a set piece straight on goal, but they've got a few options. There's Kawaguchi, I think Fabrizio and Sordo also thinking about taking this one.
Yeah, I think Eamon Sordo would potentially be the one to take this on. He hit a few in his time at North Sunshine Eagles last season. Of course, Kawaguchi there, the captain as well, standing over it. Lots of numbers wide as well. I'm looking at Alexander Gust sitting by himself next to Christian Trajsevski. Could be a shot for Eamon Sordo though. Here's Sordo, and that's a great save by Gibson in our corner.
Good save by Gibson there. A ricochet off the wall, and the ball could have went anywhere and made sure it's gone for a corner. But Altona Magic on the front foot. This is an opportunity.
It is another corner now for Altona Magic. Cross comes in and away by Fornaroli. Not out of danger just yet. As Sordo feeds it to Tasevski. Over to McCloskey. In over the top, but can't find Sordo, and a goal kick for Gibson.
Good strong option there. Probably overhit that. Sordo was never going to make it. He had two other options in the middle. Fabrizio was available. McCloskey and Mabok. So it'll be disappointing. A missed opportunity there for Altona.
And it will be a change as well. Coming off is indeed Kevin Tasevski, and facing him will be Peter Hatsopoulos.
It's a like for like, I would say, substitution. Hatsopoulos has been a very creative player this year, someone who can create opportunities for his forwards, and is playing, from what I can see there, is coming in like probably an 8 to the 10, so they're trying to pare back this goal.
Well, still 1-1 in that Hume City Caroline Spoons game, and Melbourne City's just got one back, so it's 5-1 in that game against the Bentley Greens. So, of course, the Magic players won't know until they see the result. The task at hand as UT Towns. Here's a little bit of a chop inside to Trajsevski. Through to Fornaroli again. He does stop off the post, and the follow-up is Bruno's. And that's 21 now for the season, and 2-0 to Avondale.
Bruno Fornaroli, unbelievable. Got through. Altona thought that might have been offside, but shows his persistence. Hit the post, was there to finish it off. No chance for shallow man of Trenkova, and really Fornaroli. And just even before that, he was helping his defence. Now up front, really box-to-box impact by Fornaroli, really, and the second goal, and looks like Avondale on their way.
Yeah, of course, the game will be much more open now for Avondale to really do what they please with this. It was the Bruno brace now, of course. Two shots that have been really kind of handed to him on a silver platter, you could say, for Bruno Fornaroli. He won't like us saying that about his first goal, but that one was definitely a fox in the box approach for Bruno Fornaroli. Back to Gust, now to Sordo, who's almost taken off the ball, but will be back now for Green. It's Towns who slips over to Fabrizio and Kawaguchi. Stojevski. Back to Gillard. Back over to Stojevski again, and here's Sordo. Over to Towns off the face of Fabrizio. Hand, I think it was. And a free kick as well.
Yes, look, a bit of frustration on the Altona bench there, but Avondale, the number one team for key passes. When you've got players who have the repertoire for key passes, you've got Uday Towns, you've got Trochevsky, Fornaroli, Carpenter, and they're second for through passes. So they're always going to create opportunities. And when you're not cutting off those channels, those ability to get those key passes or through passes through, then it's going to cause you problems. And we saw that with the second Fornaroli goal.
It will be Murphy Bennett who will feed a ball all the way to Mount. Fornaroli once again. Over to Carpenter. Through to Towns, but he kicks it over to Gust, and it will be chased down by Hatsopoulos. And then out for another throw. That's Gust. That is Aru. Again, another throw for Magic. And they can get another one here for Magic to halve the deficit. Of course, goal difference really matters for them now at this point of the season. That 4-goal lead at Casey Fields for Bentley Greens would mean that going into the final game week, it's 8 goals separates the two teams. So, of course, Bentley playing Heidelberg as well, and Altona Magic up against that of Preston Lions, who would be needing to face maybe a pretty good result to get third, maybe even second.
Yeah, that's a derby next week for Altona. So, and Preston, as you said, will be desperate for the points to make sure maybe finish third or fourth or even second, depending on what Hume does today. But Avondale as well, big game against Hume. So, some really big games next week.
And it is still 1-1 in that game, Hume versus Caroline Springs. So that would mean that the winner of next week's game between Avondale and Hume would be second place and have, of course, a week off. Which, I mean, as things stand, it would be Hume City versus Caroline Springs and South Melbourne versus Preston in the elimination final. Followed by, of course, Oakley versus the lowest seeded team. Because that would mean Oakley Cannons are pretty much locked in for the Australian Championship as a cross comes into John Mabok over Hatsopoulos, but out for another goal kick.
Hatsopoulos will be very disappointed there. Stochevsky made a good run. He's one of the leading players in the NPL for ball progression, getting the ball forward and running with it. Hatsopoulos probably could have laid it off to him, but pulled the shot wide. You've got to be able to create those or make those opportunities, and he'll be disappointed in that. I think McCloskey's coming off, so I should say.
Replaced by Oliver Kellart, of course. South Melbourne Youth, some time at South Yarra, Malvern, some time in Spain as well as a 21-time Sri Lankan international, Oliver Kellart. So, of course, alongside Wade Decker as well from Dandy City, formerly of Dandy Thunder, but player with lots of, I guess, a massive CV of football behind his belt. So Kawaguchi headed on by Kellart. Back to Gillard. Headed on by Sada Mukasha. Towns. Trashevsky over to Towns once again, and Mao chases, but here's Kellart to Sojevsky. Kawaguchi over to Sordo on the left-hand side. He's taken off the ball by Bennett, and a throw-in.
You mentioned heritage players. That's becoming in vogue, a trend, especially with Southeast Asia. You mentioned Kello with Sri Lanka, Wade Decker, Matthew Baker with Indonesia. So, a lot of these players playing in the NPL getting an opportunity on the international stage.
He's Fornaroli though, but off the ball is Tojevsky, who will go himself, the Magic stalwart. There's a player on the floor as well, but play Carpenter. Will look, find Bruno behind, does find Gillard instead, backed by Alexander Gust, and Ilya Shalemanov Trenkova will find Kawaguchi. Ilya. And out for another throw. Still lots of subs to come on for Avondale as well, just the one forced change through to injury. It was, of course, Adama Traore replaced by Ayuk Mao. Carpenter moving back to left back. Hatsopoulos off by Bennett.
Bennett, a very understated player, has had a really, really good game on this right wing. Had a great battle with Sordo, but two players have impressed both their games, both showing what they can do, and someone who, could step up to the finals. You need these type of players who are understated, not much known about them, but who really step up and make the difference.
Of course, Murphy Bennett previously spent some time in the Manchester City Academy, alongside the likes of Rico Lewis and Nico O'Reilly, of course. He plays in the first team of Manchester City now. Of course, did play some senior minutes for Forest Green Rovers, Gloucester City, Didcot Town and Warrington. He's also a youth international for Wales as well, so quite a CV on him. He's only 19 years old as well, so plenty of football ahead of him.
Yeah, getting those opportunities, playing in those bigger teams. There's a lot of players who sort of get that sort of little bit of experience, but it's so, I don't want to use the term cutthroat, but I will. Not the most pleasant term, but at that level, because we know in England, academy players, pretty much 98% don't make it professionally in a lot of those English academies, so it's so tough.
Yeah, of course. You think of the likes of Lucas Harrington, who's just made the move over to Hull City, of course. A record fee for Hull City to make, and a record fee for an Australian player as well. So, of course, they do kick off at 9:30 tonight against Manchester United, so that'll be great to see. And then you think of the NPL system, you think of the likes of George Mells, came through the Southampton Academy, the Chelsea Academy. Of course, didn't unfortunately progress into first team football there. Did spend some time at Fitzwater Sutard though, but of course played Adelaide United and Brisbane Roar. Headed on by Bennett. He's Green. Cross to Trashevsky. Quiet second half he has, but through to Fabrizio. Again by Bennett, who's really opened up this half, as Trashevsky now. Call around, Stojevsky. Trashevsky with the cross over the top of everyone and out for a goal kick.
Fabrizio, they're taking 3-4 players on, but Bennett again being the right place, right time, and really disrupting that, or with that interception, disrupting that move by Altona Magic.
Melbourne City's got one back against Bentley Green, so it's 5-2 in that game, and Hume City has just gone 2-1 up against Caroline Springs. So as things stands, it would be Hume City's second place, and Oakley Cannons a draw in their game, well, a win, would mean that they would be the NPL premiers and a guaranteed Australian Championship position on the line for them if they do manage to win their game, which they should win against Dandenong Thunder, as Max Green now will go himself here, finds Bruno through the legs of Lachlan Gillard, and Ilya Shalamovachenkova will head to Carpenter's head and through to
try to nutmeg him there, nutmeg ball. Nearly paid off, but you got to try those things, and that's, especially when you're surging forward and cutting through the channels. Try those things. There's always a chance for a second ball or a ricochet that could go your way.
And it'll be John LeBrock when he's back to goal, turning to Max Green over the top of Bruno Fornaroli. Again, Max Green will find some space on this right-hand side now to progress. Just slot the ball through to Bennett. So Jevsky slots it all the way through to Ilya. No more changes getting ready for either side as well. Just the two for Magic have been changed. It was, of course, on McCloskey off for Oliver Kellart and Gavin Tasevsky off for Peter Hatsopoulos. And just the one for Avondale as well. Here is the new substitute. Kellart up against Carpenter. And out by Carpenter.
It's so important to have adaptable players. You see Blake Carpenter able to go wing back, winger, maybe switch as well on the other side. So very important especially for finals campaigns, having those sort of important utility players who can play a few positions.
Fabrizio, again, strike from range is Sordo. Been very unlucky today with the chances he's made, but it'll be another goal kick for Avondale. And he won't be in any rush to restart play, Jack Gibson. Goes elsewhere as well. Springvale White Eagles are leading Werribee City 2-0, and North Sunshine are still leading 2-0. Of course, they miss a game next week due to Western United's withdrawal from the league, so they are currently safe on goal difference. Langwarren 2 games in hand on North Sunshine, so a very well chance for North Sunshine to remain in the league, depending on the Langwarren result against Melbourne Knights.
Yeah, one thing we forget that we know Melbourne City, the youngest team in the league. Altona Magic, the second youngest team in the league. I think around average age of 24. They have given a lot of younger players opportunities the last couple of seasons, and we've seen some of those players prosper now.
It's Kawaguchi. He does try find Oliver Kellart, and a corner will be given for Magic. It looks like 2 men at the corner flag. It looks like it will be him and Sordo, though. Let's take this one, and lots of numbers forward as well. Here's Sordo with the corner. Oh, and that's almost gone all the way through. Fornaroli clears off the line. Headed away by Max Green, off by Kellart, and out for a Avondale throw. Home for some breathing.
That was actually pretty much going in for Neroli, right place, right time. And he's done a lot of defensive work. We underestimate that. But that's the second time he's been in the right place, right time for defensive duties for Avondale.
And another sub for Avondale. It'll be Max Green coming off for Adam Zimmerino, formerly of Perth Glory and Brisbane Roar, of course. 1 goal to his name this season, Adam Zimmerino. So we'll see what he can do here with some fresh legs in front of Kawaguchi. Here's Saad Mukashar, knocks it on to Carpenter, down by Trashevsky. Here's Mukashar again, over to the substitute Zimmerino, who sends the ball out of play.
Yeah, Zimmerino, another A-League player that's come into the NPL, and it's a lot of A-League players are dropping, especially the New South Wales and Victorian NPLs. We're seeing quite a bit of that dropping down because it's not just about, I would say, the standards are not as big as they used to be, but also you can see Avondale, the bench, they've got a lot more analysts, a lot more different coaches, much more professionalisation in the NPL these days, and a lot of A-League players who may not be able to get a second opportunity or third opportunity or can't go overseas are dropping down to NPL to relaunch their careers.
And I think we saw that in that transition made by, of course, Maxim Gajdovski and Jako LaRocca to Brisbane Roar, of course, as well as Sasha Odzanovsky to MacArthur. So definitely eyes are on the NPL from the A-League. So lots of opportunity for movement between the leagues, etc. Christian Theoharis as well, of course, comes to mind, an A-League winner at Heidelberg United. Of course, there's many in the Avondale side as well. Of course, South Melbourne have quite a few, and so does Preston.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more coaches get opportunity. That's great to see. With Australian coaches doing very well in Asia, quite a few in Europe as well now, and Saudi Arabia, there's 2 major coaches there, but it's great to see the opportunity. The difference ain't that much, and it's Australian coaches have stepped up, and if you do get an A-League opportunity, that's a launching pad for something else.
Of course, it's Ute Towns now, who will feed it over to Carpenter. Tries to find Mao. It's intercepted by Kellart, who's taken his body at the ball there, but Ute Towns will just slowly bring the ball back to Carpenter. Over to Muir. It's a long ball by Muir. Over the top of Salamov Trenkova and just about made the ball there as John Stojewski will look up and drive. Headed by Carpenter into Gibson. And still on the bench is George Otts and Seita Murai and Pat Wall as well, of course.
You know, Town's a very important player for Avondale. Controls the tempo, game management, that sort of number 6. Very important, linking up with players, vital for their aspirations this year.
There's Kellart on the right-hand side. Can't quite get past Jacob Muir. And a corner is given for Magic, and it's everyone up for them as well.
Yeah, Altona Magic got to try things. It's late in the game. There hasn't been much end product. They've really got to convert here with these set pieces and these corners.
6-2 in that Bentley City game, so 4 goals different. As Kellart sends a corner in to Sordo on the edge of the box. Cleared by Chajewski, but Sordo will get the follow-up. Gibson very easily gets down, and he will just about to take it quickly, but opts to go short to play Carpenter, who again manages to find the feet of Kellart. Out to Hatsopoulos. And Carpenter again repays the error and sends it out for a throw-in.
Yeah, Carpenter mistimed the ball there, but showed the speed and intensity that he has to make that correction.
The ball sent into Muir off the head of Bennett and then out by Fakranis. Cleared by Sojewski. Here's Ayuk Miles taken down off Garangaru. It is still his ball though, and he does go himself but can't get past Bruno Fornaroli. Another free kick given.
Yeah, Garangaru, fourth in defensive duels, 4th top player in the NPL in defensive duels, has probably had a bit of more of a quieter match today, just different type of pressure, obviously facing Fornaroli and having the wingers, Trashevsky, as well as Carpenter was playing there earlier, but still had to transition to left back. It's had a lot to do, Aru, today.
And of course, another one that's spent some time in an A-League system as well before moving on to Green Gully. Spent some time at Newcastle Jets. Made his A-League debut against Brisbane Roar in Feb 2025. So very recently, of course. So he's been in that professional setup before. And it wouldn't be surprised if he kicks on from here as well and beyond. Carpenter goes along with the throw of Gillard and Mao.
I do speak to a lot of football agents and football lawyers, and a lot of them are starting to see the Australian Championship as some sort of showcase where a lot of these players maybe get into maybe smaller leagues in Asia or Europe. I mean, hopefully the Australian Championship upper level this year, which I think it will be, and gives a lot of these players to showcase. We've got some interesting teams already qualified, not just from Victoria, but Adelaide City are going to be there, and Broadmeadow Magic, very powerful team, also there.
Yeah, of course, massive club, Adelaide City. We'll get to the list of players that they've recruited. They've recruited quite well. Angelo Carrozza, as Sordo sends the ball in, and Trashevsky will go back the other way, and here's Bruno Fornaroli, who's broken the line, and he can get his hat-trick, and he does over the top of Ilya Shalamov-Trenkov off the crossbar. He does get the follow-up, and he's cleared Kiroki Haraguchi, and that could have been his hat-trick.
Fornaroli, what class, a good chip. Bit unlucky off there. Gillard did really well to take that second ball off his foot there, because he could have got that second chance. So, unbelievable there.
Cross comes in again, Cleared by Carpenter, again by Zimmerino. And Gust now will go to Haraguchi. And out for a corner kick. Of course, mentioning the people that have made moves from the Australian Championship, we look at the likes of Aaron Cox, for example. Did spend some time, of course, at Broadmeadow Magic. Moved over to South Melbourne from that. Hassan Ramazani as well. Did spend a few little games, as well as, of course, the whole Preston as well. You look at Luca Tavia, of course, made that move to Perth Glory. And you'd think now he would potentially get a move over to the A-League. I think there's speculation linking him to MacArthur to join Sasha Ogzanovsky, but what a player he has as well. Is that move that really people need, that in-between move, like a Manny Agwek, for example, moved to Thailand, I think it was. So
yeah, and then Malta, I think the Thailand moved, something happened with the window there, but he did end up Malta. And that's the thing, the Australian Championship and the NPL, but Australian Championship is a launching pad for a lot of players who can make that move, because it feeds into the January window, which is the mid-season window in Europe and other leagues around the world.
And speaking of people that have made moves, coming off is, of course, Murphy Bennett, and replacing him would be someone that did make a move, Seita Murai. Of course, coming over with his friend Keiju Kojima from Moreton City Excelsior. Did score a wonderful goal against Avondale as well in that Australian Championship, and I think that's what the whole tournament was about, really, as Sordo sends a cross in to Aru's head, again sends it out of play. But yes, very excited to see Seita Murai. He's missed a couple games this season. He hasn't played since that game against Heidelberg a few weeks back, so see what he can do.
I think it was Mabok there who missed that opportunity, disappointed himself, had a lot of time and space, but he said it just didn't hit the mark. You've got to hit the mark from there. There was not much pressure on him, and really it was an important opportunity there for Altona to get back in the game.
And that Bentley game has finished 6-2. So just the 4 goals and 2 goals here, which would mean last week would need to be overturned 7 goals. These two sides. Blake Carpenter's on the floor, and it doesn't look good either for him. Looks like he's holding his head. The referee hasn't called the medic to come on. Coming into the final 2.5 minutes as well here at Paisley Park.
When it's a headshot, you've got to be very sensitive. Doesn't matter what it is, a face or headshot. With concussion and head injuries, very, very have to stop the game regardless. I think Carpenter's okay.
Yeah, had a pretty good game as well so far. Crossed by looked very bad off the ball there by Lachlan Gillard. It did not look great, of course. Another one that's trialled overseas as well at Ireland. Spent some trial time with Tranmere Rovers and Sheffield Wednesday as well before moving over to Magic. The ball sent over to Kellart. Again, taken down is John Mabok. It's been a little bit of a physical spurt here in this last 90 seconds of football here at Paisley Park.
Yeah, Altona's trying to lift the intensity. But tactically, Avondale's well set up, and any opportunities Altona get are kept to a minimum, very well tactically set up to cope with the pressure.
Sent in by Gust. Again by Kellart, but cleared by Seita Murai. Here's Gust again. You guys have Trejshevsky. He will try send the ball down the line to Bruno Fornaroli. And the fourth official's getting his board ready to give added time, but Sordo now will turn and find Zimmerino. He does have Ayuk Mao with lots of space to work with. He does send a through ball to Christian Trejshevsky. He's offside. There's a very early flag as well.
Good movement there by Avondale, but it definitely was offside.
Kawaguchi. Stojevski over to Gillard. The fourth official has indicated a minimum of 6 minutes to be added on in this game. Plenty of time for Magic or Avondale to get something out of it. Sordo over the top of his head. And back the other way for Avondale. And Hume City do still lead 2-1 as well at half-time in that game at Naziel Stadium.
Tomorrow we've got the traditional derby, South Melbourne and Heidelberg. Heidelberg will probably seek the Caroline Spring result. If it still stays at 2-1, they've still got a chance to get back into the six. Been out of form the last 2 months, if I can say that. But that's a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, they haven't won since May the 14th in the league. Of course, they've had cup games since then, but club that's really lost their groove recently. So they did invest quite well in the registration window in the middle of the season. Of course, so Benary Barney from Dendy Thunder, Kane Radmolski from Victory, and Christian Theoharis, Tasmuda Cordis as well, of course, from Auckland. So lots of people. They've got the players that can get results. So, and it's Heidelberg players that definitely step up in a game like that. Here's Carpenter. Tries to battle Oliver Keller. And it will be his free kick for it as well.
Yeah, what's made the another dimension, I would say, it's made the NPL quite interesting is the transfer windows. We see mid-season, we see obviously pre-season, then there's a transfer window for the Australian Championship. We've got the A-League transfer window, the Oceania OFC Pro League, always looking for players there. That's second season coming up for that. So there's a lot of opportunities for players to showcase and move around and get possibly those professional opportunities.
Gibson, though, will restart play. Headed on by Gust. Off to Towns. It's Murray. Over to the Zimmerino. Back to Stojevski. Again by Kawaguchi. And then wide to Sordo. But Hite Towns there who managed to clear that ball. And down. Again, free kick for Avondale. It looks like those subs won't come on for Avondale either. But Garangaroo will send the ball to Kellart. Over to Mabok. Can drive. Back over to Mabok. Cleared by midfielder. Go over to Kawaguchi again, who will send an arching ball in. Again, cleared off that final line by the Avondale back line. Again, tries to find Seitan Murai. Here's Kawaguchi over to Stojevski. Again, crossed in off the face of, I think that's Saad Mukashar. Kawaguchi, though, will capitalise on that and send it just far again.
Kawaguchi will be disappointed. They actually had three options, Mabok, Aru and Kellart in the box. Probably would have been done better with a pass there. We have an injury now. I think it could be Mukacha, I'm not sure, but he's been hit in the head, so with a bit of a stoppage. But Kawaguchi probably should have anticipated that and done a different election and maybe passed it across. There 3 players on the right there. Kellart's come on. Probably want to see a bit more punchy mobility by Kellart. He's a natural winger, but he hasn't been able to get behind Avondale, who've really set up really well this second half as well.
It will be restarted with Jack Gibson. Looks like he's alright. He's back up on his feet. Just over 2 minutes to go as well here at Paisley Park. I think Magic's been unlucky not to score, but they've also been pretty lucky not to concede more than 2 this game. I think Bruno could have had probably 4 himself, but of course that one that hit the crossbar for the hat-trick as Gust sends the ball over the top to Hatsopoulos, and the follow-up is sent to Sordo. Again, crossed in by Mabok, and that's a great save by Gibson again.
Fantastic save by Gibson. Really tested there. Mabok finally showed what he can do, surging in the box. A big aerial threat, and Gibson, fantastic save. That was probably the gilt-edged opportunity there for Altona Magic.
Oliver Kellarts grabbed the ball very quickly to restart play. Lots of numbers again forward for everyone. Got lots of height there. I see Garangaroo leaking. He does try to get the ball out again. Gibson sends it out for another corner. And Sordo this time. He does go quickly. To Gust. To Sordo with the outside of the boot. Put it away by Mukashar. Again, quick feet by Naaman Sordo. He will send the ball through. Cross over the top. He's almost halving the deficit for Altona Magic and what could have been for them.
Oh, wow. Sordo, intensity, speed, decision-making, great ball. I think that was Fabrizio. That is a bad miss. He's got to put that away. The game's on the line. A great opportunity, and just a finish. Got to at least get it on target and test Gibson, but that is a massive missed opportunity by Altona Magic.
And it looks like players on the floor is Jacob Muir. And it's just about hit the 96th minute as well, so it should be game over, but Jacob Muir on the floor. Because not what they want to see as well. Another centre-back injured for Avondale. Flotman missing and Matt Reed with an ACL injury. Very, very slim at the back.
Muir's had a very good game. It looks a little bit concerning. There's been some... We saw Traore before go down, and if you lose Muir, that's 2 very important players at the business end of the season, and defensive is going to be a lot of pressure on Avondale. Muir's been very impressive, control Mabok most of the game, and also surged into the midfield, creative type player as well. He's got that edge to his game, and hopefully he's not injured.
He's also, of course, spent some time at Perth Glory and some time in the USA with Monterey Bay. Looks like he's again back up on his feet. And that should be about it now for round 25 here at Paisley Park in the Senol NPLM Men's Victoria. And Dandy City and Preston have just kicked off as well. Now whistle goes for Gibson to restart with a goal kick. Let's header it down. Here's Ute Towns. Again, the other way. And that's full time here at Paisley Park. It is 2-0 to the visitors, Avondale. Bruno Fornaroli with a brace. Could have had 3 and 4, but results elsewhere would mean that they would potentially move up to second. But very up and back game, and I think Altona Magic's very unlucky not to go away with something out of this game.
Yeah, look, it's been a solid game. First half, Avondale had the wind and used that, although they were only 1-0 up, and they'll be probably could have scored a couple more. Fornaroli, very dangerous play, although that first goal maybe could have been saved. Second half, more evenly poised. Altona had their opportunities. We saw that right at the end there with Fabrizio. Sordo looked very dangerous. But they just couldn't have the end product, the finished product today, and they'll be disappointed about that. But Avondale, The major concern today, besides obviously they've had the win, but a couple of injuries that could affect them going forward. Some key players, hopefully they're okay because they're important pieces of the puzzle, I should say, for this finals campaign. Very interesting match today. Both teams showcase a little bit what they can do, but Avondale, it's going to be a very interesting finals campaign. Altona Magic, a lot of interesting players introduced this year and really played some good football.
And looking ahead for Avondale, they take on Hume City, and Altona Magic take on Preston Lions. Of course, there's more NPL Victoria action later today, as Standing on Thunder host Oakey Cannons, and tomorrow South Melbourne host Heidelberg United in the traditional derby. I've been Ross Papadakis, joined today by Pedi Palaiologos, and we'll see you very shortly for some more NPL Victoria action.